So I am Hugues De Varine. I'm French. Of my origin, my professional origin is with the International Council of Museums, ECOM, in the years 60 and 70. I'm not a museologist. I've worked for ICOM and with ICOM as an administrator of ICOM, not as a museologist, but I am mostly a professional in local development, local economic, social, cultural development, and working for very small local territories. It is for that reason that I happen to be interested in the movement which was created in the years 60 and 70, which now is called Ecomuseum. So we'll talk about Ecomuseum, but I add one thing. Ecomuseum is not a label. It's not an official name which has an international regulations. So we'll see what we can say about Ecomuseum with the experience of the last more than 50 years of local experience, practical practices. The Ecomuseum is a word which has been created in 1971, and between 1971 and 1974, to christen, to call a movement which is also called, another point of view, also called New Museology, created by local people who decided to start their own process. So I'll try to give not really a definition, but to give a few words to define, to explain this movement, which is a natural movement coming from local people, not coming from professional of museums or museology. I am used to say, from my own experience of the years 1970, that there are three components of an ecomuseum. One is heritage. Second is community. And third is territory. So these three components, starting with heritage, but with an active participation of community, and not restricted, but covering a territory, it makes, in fact, what the Italians call a pact, in a sort of common agreement between the three components to manage heritage, and to manage heritage through active participation of the community, and considering the territory as a space for development, local development, economic development, social development, cultural development, and also environmental development. So I think this is in my opinion, the essential of what is called Ecomuseum, which covers also other types of institutions or of initiatives, sometimes called museums, local museums, territory museums, community museums, museums based on ethnic groups, Aboriginal communities, etc. So all these share the same characteristics and the same components, always heritage, living heritage, the community, active community, participative community, and a territory of territory, a developing territory. So I think it's enough. It is not possible to make a definition, in my opinion, definition of the Ecomuseum, because each Ecomuseum is an original creation, an original invention, and an original process. So I cannot imagine giving a formal or a scientific or an administrative definition of something called Ecomuseum. What I personally think is that an Ecomuseum is not a museum; it is something else. Maybe it it has the word museum in it, but it is something different, something which is ecological, which is social, which is economic, and it is an invention of the community.